the minutes. All in favor of the minutes sent out previously, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That's approved. Lovely. Open floor, yes, you have. Okay, great. No unfinished business last week, and here was short. That's fun. New business, resolution 24/028. I'm just going to read it from back here. Originated by myself, presented by myself. Whereas it has come to the administration's attention that currently the salary for Campus Wellness Center Director is below the market rate, and noting the current salary for Wellness Center Director is around $49,000, and noting the market rate for the position is higher, around $56,500. Noting the Student Association cannot set a position salary when we express our desire for said salary to be changed, and therefore be resolved by a majority vote of the Student Association Senate and the signature of the Student Association President that the Student Association is in favor of increasing the Wellness Director's salary to match the market rate. This is just first reading. You don't have to pass it now. If there are any questions? Yes?
Why is the current salary approximate?
I think that it was 48 something, 48,756. I think that it kind of changes year to year. So
This is just taking a stance and we want to increase it, right?
yeah, this is just taking the stance to increase it. As my understanding goes, we had that presentation from Rob Sales and Joel Lucan. The only way that he could take the position was if it asked him to the salary, and we've not had a competitive salary for that for quite some time.
Do we need to fund the pay?
Oh, yes.
Fund the pay.
Thank you.
Okay, question, President Kessler. So are you suggesting with this that you want to move some of that funding from the reverted SOAP fund?
It'll come back.
Okay.
Yeah. The funding mechanism for this has nothing to do with Student Senate. It's all gap back. This is just being clear about our intent as Student Senate and our agreement that it will take more money for that salary.
Do you think that increase, we'll also see an increase in the gap allocation for like the Wellness Center as a whole? Or is it just?
So from my understanding of gap allocation last year, Wellness Center was not really increased at all. The largest increase last year was actually for costs associated with heating and cooling the building. I think that because we're looking at new programming, maybe coming into play this year, that Wellness Center will be able to petition for more money and receive a little bit more money, commensurate with more programming.
So just to clarify from what the presentation we have from Rob Sales was, this is us essentially putting in favor of allocating money to hold over the salary to be competitive until the end of the fiscal year, and then for the Wellness Center's gap ask for this coming year, they will include the proper salary for the coming fiscal year. This is just holding over until the end of fiscal year 24. Does that clarify it? So we're not allocating 56,000, we're allocating a holdover to make sure that when Rob moves into this new position, that he's paid accordingly for the position. Because right now there's not the right salary. He'd actually be taking a pay cut to take a promotion, which doesn't make sense. So we're essentially aiding in the promotion to hold over until next fiscal year.
Do you think we can reflect that in the actual resolution?
Yeah. It'll be amended for next year. Oh, yes, we got it right. I didn't know if we actually wanted to do that.
What? Because I think you're going to need to decide, like, if you're going to allocate the funds to add to that salary so that they can move forward. I think you'll just want that written in there. And same with that language that you're approved of this piece, so that when they come back next year for their budget, obviously, yes, you'll see a little bit higher request than they have for the salary piece, but maybe not necessarily. I would just maybe clear it out just a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Any other questions? You'll see a new version of this going forward. Thank you. Okay, open discussion.
And just real quick, you'll see Senator Smith has it right now. That's the paper copy for the student commencement speaker selection. most of you did this back in December, well, earlier for December commencement. It's got every student who will be participating in May commencement alphabetically by last name. You get 3 votes, but you just can't vote for the same student 3 times. So your top 3 choices of all of them, go ahead and indicate. And I apologize, I normally don't have my, if anybody was joining via Zoom, that's why I'm doing this. So if you see me bounce around.
Any senior senators, do we know if anybody who wants to speak that should be voted for?
Yes or no?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yes, please go for him.
Okay, switch the conversation a little bit. I've had a couple of senior design groups, specifically mechanical based, come up to me and talk about the makerspace. Apparently we're having issues with just procedure on who would come up with volume one and just between different people, is there any set procedure for how you're supposed to run that type of stuff?
No, I definitely think it's just something that needs to be, there needs to be, sort of procedures that actually need to be made, and that kind of just comes down to manager, and learn to But yeah, I definitely agree that there needs to be some procedures, because that's sort of the reason, even have to work with that.
I don't know how we go about it.
Just for information, who's the faculty advisor?
It is Heather Bunkers and then, Lisa Clarkson.
Okay. Anything else? Yes.
Happy reminder that today class petitions open for senators for this coming year. So please go ahead and tell your friends to run for senatorship. I know we have one member in our audience that is interested in running for a senior senator position this coming year. So please go ahead and tell your friends to run for all classes, because we'd love to have new people on Senate as well. We'd love for it to be competitive. So.
There's also a highly competitive presidential race.
Yes. I want to be clear that in theory, if there are 125 write-ins for the same person, they could be a valid candidate. If anybody wants to have a rogue guerrilla campaign.
Senator Archer.
I was just gonna say get out of
Just to clarify, the class senate petitions open pay and then they have 3 school days. Otherwise, so 5 school days to the senators. March 20th.
Senator Archer, can you clarify?
Yeah, so they go out today. So our idea is usually the clock petitions at roughly a week's time from Wednesday to Wednesday to get filled out and turned in. However, since spring break is kind of right in the middle of our schedule, we're extending it by a week to sort of simulate that 1 week span. So.
Just to be clear, in case some people were not aware, the dates for elections were set in accordance with the Constitution. So that's how it has to be.
It's bad, but
We didn't pull it out of the hat, like the
Yeah.
purposeful dates.
yeah, it's annoying, but it's what it has to be. Barring any other discussion, we'll move on to reports. I think we have this kind of a lot of them tonight. Starting with CFO report.
My group meeting tonight, we're gonna do some more soap stuff. That's so fun. I think as a leadership group, we decided to hold an open forum for students and advisors to attend, because this year has been quite rigorous, I guess, in the cutting of funding to some organizations. So before final reports go out and award statements go out, we're going to do an open forum to let people know what the cuts were this year and why they're like that.
We want to explicitly define exactly what percentages cut for what prior to anything going out, so we don't have individualized concerns coming to us about why this was cut, why wasn't this cut. We want to be as clear about percentages as possible going into releasing the numbers. Yes.
I'm not sure, like attendance wise, if you did the forum and then released office members, people might not be like too concerned until they figure that their stuff has been cut, and then I'm not sure, those people.
It's gonna be impossible to, we're not gonna debate the results of SOAP hearings and, our, awards individually with each
Right,
individual.
I'll report it.
Yeah, it's more of just an info session about, if you didn't do this, this is what this cut is, it was applied to everybody. If you didn't do this, this is what this cut is.
And
No, go ahead.
there have been some groups that have made, weird, adjustments to how they did their budgets this year that have resulted in some significant cuts. So I feel, that if the person that filled out the form and had decided to do things in the wrong way knows they did, perhaps they would send themselves or the advisor to that open forum.
Just to quantify what we're talking about, so it actually has a number in some people's head, there's still a little over 30 clubs that have to be left to revise, and there's roughly $60,000 in cuts already. So we're not even gonna have to take a top cut off the board, it's been so efficient this year.
Oh, will you send that out in an email?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Yes, this open forum will be advertised campus-wide, not only to students, but the faculty advisors as well.
yeah. I think we want a lot of faculty advisory buy-in, after what we saw this week. Okay, moving on to, any questions, comments, concerns about that explicitly? Okay, moving on to the report.
Hi, everyone. So I was hoping for us to have our facilities tour, our secondary one this week. Unfortunately, both Geraldine Roberts and Margaret Smallbrook are out with illness at the moment, so we'll be rescheduling for it after spring break, but I was able to find a time that would work for people. If not, maybe I'll update the one is good for after spring break, because I'd like to get as many people in for that as possible. So we can do that. Sam's going to talk about our latest Student Federation update because it's a doozy. But I do have a Word document I'd like to show you all, and I would like people that are more computer sciencey than me to help us interpret this. So, to give some context, roughly a year ago, we had a graduate student that brought concerns of Wi-Fi onto Student Senate, gave us a minor report, and then graduated and disappeared, essentially showing us about Wi-Fi overlap. We now have an undergrad student that has brought the same concerns to us as a self-proclaimed network enthusiast, network analyst enthusiast, and made us a mini Wi-Fi report. So essentially this one-page document is talking about, is talking about how we found a Wi-Fi temperature graph where he's been building one that actually shows intense overlap of routers and access points across campus. So I'll go ahead and post this in the Teams so that people are all able to see this, but essentially the meat and potatoes of this is if we go down to here, he's showing signal strength maps where essentially all this orange and a lot of the yellow should not exist. So like this is the first floor of Peterson Hall in Upper Surbeck, for example, and it's essentially showing that the entire hall is overlapping intensity in signal, and it's making it impossible for devices to connect to a network because they can't identify a router to connect to. If I'm understanding this correctly, is the first one. And then our second map that we have here, let's see, this one I need to have someone else talk about, but here's a signal strength map of the second floor of McClory. Again, very, very strong overlap. So, yeah, and then just more data. So like I said, I'll go ahead and post this in the Teams, but this is something I'd like to follow up with this undergrad student about, and then possibly bring it to the attention of ITS. So,
Is this just school Wi-Fi or is this including personal?
this is WPAs, so just school networks. So like I said, I'll go ahead and post this so that people that know more about this than just us on the exec team can try to look at this, but we want to bring this up to ITS and see if this is something we're aware of, if they can give us a good answer, because just from what we can see here and interpreting maps, it's showing us that this is no good, and this is why sometimes devices have issues with internet on campus, is there's literally too many access points provided by the school for the device to actually identify and stay connected to. So,
If you guys know any people who are smart about this in your personal lives, ask them. We want more info that isn't necessarily from ITS about this issue.
So there will be more information about this, but I thought this was interesting, and I'm really hoping that I can keep this discussion going with this undergrad student since, like I said, the last time this was brought up was a graduate student that wrote us a a very long email about this, showed us these same maps, and then left. And we were never able to follow up with them. So, any questions or comments further about this right now, or any help that anyone might know?
Would you be interested in this particular individual coming in and doing a presentation?
They said they'd be interested in doing that, yeah.
Good.
So I'll go ahead and reach out to them about that.
Seeing none, moving on to my report. This is fun because it and I have learned things. This is all going to be about StuFed.
Gossip.
Yeah, it's all about gossip, and it somewhat relates to 1.76, that communications and branding policy. I want to be clear. I don't care about 1.76 anymore. I don't want to debate it on this campus. This drama is about other universities, not us. So that's my caveat to this discussion. We had a student-fed meeting 2 weeks ago.
On Friday.
I guess last Friday, 1 week ago. And there was kind of tension starting the meeting. We weren't necessarily sure why. We ended up voting on a stance essentially saying that as Student Federation, we would have liked to see more communication going on between the Board of Regents and the, I guess, daughter universities prior to that policy being instated. And we'd like to see going forward revisions to it to account for the clear issues in that policy and the unintended consequences. So with that being said, we voted on that. We had one university abstain. That's just because they have a rule that says that unless their student senate has officially voted on something, they can't take a stance. So it was essentially all in favor, which is what we expected. Then we broke into executive session in StuFed. Executive session is essentially behind closed doors. I'm not going to explain explicitly who said what and what happened and what the discussion was, but I'll explain the backstory here. There are some disagreements and there's some tension between the Board of Regents and other universities in the state. A lot of this centers around two things. The first being communication in regards to how policies are decided, whether or not regions come to campuses, etc. I want to be clear that we aren't bringing this criticism forward. We've had a very good history in communicating with regents when need be, and we, albeit it's hard to coordinate with the regent to come speak, we were able to. It seems like other universities in the state either weren't able to or didn't attempt to as successfully as we did. The second issue that a lot of this discussion and gossip and bad feelings centered upon was a meeting, or I guess some communication between the student regent, which is, his name's Brock Brown, he's a law student at USD, and the USD Student Senate. The regent, or the student regent, attended the student senate meeting unannounced in his personal capacity, I think 2 weeks ago. And during that meeting, they had been discussing this communication and branding policy. You know, we've discussed that some of our campus. I think that we've been clear that we don't like it, but it doesn't, as far as I can tell, I wouldn't lie to you guys, I don't think it's going to affect us at all. And the same discussions occur at other campuses, but they're much more concerned about possible implications of it going forward. That they still are concerned about it and kind of upset about how that decision was made. So a lot of these universities have voted to take stances in essentially saying, hey, Board of Regents kind of did everybody dirty when it comes to the way that they planned this procedure, the way that they're trying to carry out this procedure, the lack of insight into how it affects students, etc. The student regent, when he met with that student senate, was on all accounts very polite, helpful, for fulfilling his duty as a student regent when it came to communicating about concerns from other students. Our feeling is that student regents, the role of the student regent is to represent students on the Board of Regents. It seems like that wasn't carried out 2 weeks ago, and we're trying to figure out some more information about exactly what happened. there were relatively terse communications between the entire student senate and Brock Brown. I also know that there were terse communications between a single student senator who asked Brock Brown a question, and his response was, "I'm not even going to validate the answer to your question." There's also been some discussion about whether or not student associations on campuses are lobbying the right way when it comes to positions we take, if those positions are in conflict with the Board of Regents. My opinion is it doesn't matter if our positions are in conflict with the Board of Regents. We're lobbying the right way if we're taking positions of the students on our campuses. From what I understand about that communication with the student regent, that's not student regent's opinion. I also want to say that as far as our university goes, we've done a great job of communicating with the Board of Regents. We've not had any issues with it. Both Ben and I were surprised when we heard this from other universities. So I'm not saying that this is something we've had an issue with. I have, however, reached out to Jeff Partridge to learn more information about this specific incident because he was so good at reaching out and communicating with us in the past. There's a student federation. There's a Board of Regents meeting on April 3rd in Vermillion. We will be attending with all the other schools, hopefully in attendance as well. I know that we were really the only university that attended that meeting in December. It was specifically mentioned by Brock Brown that only SD Mines showed up to that, which is good for us, but it's bad for the state that we were the only one that showed up. So going forward, I think that there's going to be a concerted effort to communicate more, and I assume that there is going to be drama regarding the student regent position as it's a yearly appointment. I'm pretty sure that from a statewide perspective, no, the other universities are not in favor of the same student regent continuing. I don't know anything about the specific issue other than hearsay. Well, I guess I wouldn't call it hearsay. There's some proof that's happening. I haven't delved deeply enough into knowing whether or not I'm totally in opposition to the same regent continuing moving forward. But this is a big issue at Student Bed, and I want to make sure that we all know about it because we'll be discussing it after spring break for sure. Any questions, comments, concerns? That's appointed by the governor's office.
We know there's currently 3 students that have applied for it, one of them being the current president of Black Hills State's Student Senate.
Yeah.
The other 2 were not willing to disclose who they were because it's an anonymous application. The only one that was willing to come out and say that they nominated themselves was the Black Hills State president.
I assume that it's other people. That's not us. We didn't know.
So,
we haven't gone for it.
But yeah, essentially it was unprofessional conduct took place at USC, and once one school mentioned this, more schools began mentioning their issues, and all of a sudden it turned into a gossip session of we all hate the BOR. So,
and we didn't know how to feel about it because
on
our campus we haven't had huge issues like this.
So essentially what happened was Student Federation is putting up an account money to have everyone attend in Vermillion so that we can dissolve into executive session with the BOR representatives and discuss this face to face to try and clear the air. So our intent is to bring everyone that we can to represent us and other schools as well.
The hope is to have other schools' relationship with the BOR be as good as ours has been, because I think that ours has been about as well as you can with the governing body and a Delaware University. Of course, it could be better going forward, but yeah. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions?
We'll keep you updated.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to international reports. Veterans report? Graduate report?
No.
Montreal report?
Nothing.
Committee report starting with Constitution.
I'll give you an update on the 4 organizations we have in the pipeline. 2 of them are kind of in limbo, waiting for them to sort out some logistical issues. The other 2, we will be meeting with one of them right after spring break, so that will be Strike Ball Club. And then we are just got in touch with Ping Pong Club, so we'll probably be meeting with them fairly soon as well. With regards to Constitution revisions, I regret not being able to provide the revisions tonight. But I will kind of give you a summary of what we've changed so far, kind of the major corrections we've made. Firstly, we updated the BOR policy numbers.
There's gonna be a document released either next week or the week after with all of this explicitly written, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so you don't have to track this, you don't have to listen to every single word, just get the idea of these things.
Yeah. Thank you. The BOR policy, their handbook kind of changed its numbering, and so we modified our constitution to reflect kind of the change in numbering. We also updated our pronoun usage from he/she to they. Don't ask me whether it's grammatically correct, but that's policy. We refined the wording for what good academic standing means for eligibility of senators. We clarified and condensed a lot of different wording, especially clarifications for like roles of CFO, which was scattered throughout the Constitution previously, but now it's kind of all in one place, which is great. Major one, especially in light of the upcoming elections, is the class standing definition for Senate candidates. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to make those changes and pass them through this body and student association prior to election. Which means I'll probably just turn a blind eye to whoever has to basically enact those changes without these constitutional changes. We updated our chain of succession, put details on that, just wait for the revision document. And finally, we kind of clarified some student organization member and officer requirements. So previously, we had kind of different requirements, also unfair requirements, depending on the SILP funding standing of an organization. We changed that to kind of a universal requirement for all student organizations, and that would be namely 10 interested members and 4 officers out of those 10. Yes, lastly, I will read our Senate Constitution excerpt of the week from Article 5, Elections, Section 9, Notification of Elections and Petition Deadlines. Elections of any kind of petition deadlines must be publicized at a minimum in the following ways. Additional publicity is recommended. A, announcements must be published on MindSlink, which is now Rocket Central, a minimum of 1 week prior to the election or petition deadline. B, minimum of 1 flyer per location must be posted on campus, each residence hall wing, each academic building, and the Survey Student Center, a minimum of 1 week prior to the election or petition deadline. End of report.
I have a question. When it says week, does it say school, plain reading, does that mean 7 days, or does it mean 5 school days?
I would interpret that as 7 days where individuals are on campus, so not break days.
It's good they don't specify clearly exactly.
Correct.
Maybe we could go forward, who knows? Any other questions, comments, concerns for Constitution? Okay, great. Moving on to PR.
Not a lot to report in addition to the stuff I have previously said, except I just sent an email today to the marketing department to get a Senate Snapchat takeover set up to encourage people to get the petitions in and to vote when general elections come around. So if you want to help with that, let me know. End of report.
Questions, comments, concerns for PR? Seeing none. GR.
President elections are today. Go out and vote. Really competitive election going on. Senator petitions went out today, so if you're thinking about where you're running, you should probably grab a petition and start getting people to sign up. Just saying. Those are due on March 20th too. And then finally, we've been discussing doing a Senate bonding event, and I think we landed on one. We're going to do trivia, and originally we planned for April 3rd. However, that is a very bad date to do that. So I think we're going to push it 1 week and do it on March 27th. which is when, also when senator elections are. So, yeah, and report, questions, comments? After. We will discuss dates.
Yes. There has been some concerns, great concern brought up about language on the senator petitions, standard senator petitions. I have to remember. So it's, we need to work on rewording the classification or the wording for which position you're running for, like your class standing, to state that you will be, to announce that you are running for a position that you will be the coming school year, because right now it makes the wording sound as if you're running for a position that you might currently be, so it's confusing, you know. If I'm a junior currently, do I put down junior or senior on my senator petition to make clear on that? And then what was, what's the second one? Yeah, and then our location is still stated as Lower Surrey on the petition, so we need to have it updated to reflect where our new office is at.
Any other questions? Are we on SA? Yes.
Yeah. We don't have much to report. We don't have anything upcoming for us this semester, so anybody has anything they want to do, any polls, anything. Right now, all we have is this one more trip Friday. So, and is,
What did we decide on for the newsletter recurrency rate?
I think it's one.
Okay, so we'll have one more.
Yeah.
This year. Did you receive any feedback from the first one?
Only for
That's good though. Any other questions? Any ad hocs for the country?
Well, food services update, they finally got like the sandwiches and all that back in stock.
For the app ordering?
No, they have some.
Okay, upcoming business. We have a meeting, not next week, the week after. The announcements.
Mr. Claus is on spring break, having an absolute wonderful time. Let me let you all know that there's 294 days of Christmas.
Shameless plug, drama club shows in this very room 2 weeks from tomorrow.
SBS is going to be holding a pie eating contest for Pie Day. If anyone would like to participate, please let us know.
Well, really quick, is there interest for student senate to participate in that as student senate? I already said no, but I thought it would. Okay, the laugh sounded like a no.
I see two interested smiles right
Maybe.
Do you have to pay for the pies? What kind of pies are
Ask Professor Downing.
If it's key lime, I'll do it.
I'm almost certain, I'm sure if you ask him, he may be willing to provide you key lime pie.
If there's key lime, I'll do it.
It'd be like key lime custard, but.
That's fine.
Okay.
Any other announcements?
Oh, motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor, adjourn, say aye. Opposed?
Make sure to vote for Mr. Speaker. We have not had.
Yes.